Welcome to You ARFID What You Eat, a channel where we deal with some of the issues that somebody with avoidance restrictive food intake disorder deals with on a daily basis. My name is Chris. Today we're going to be trying out a food, and that food is kale. Give me a K-A-L-E, that's lots of kale for me. Okay, so I have no experience with kale. I've never had it before, but I hear that it's really bitter. That's what I've always heard other people talk about. And I also have not the best history with leafy greens. But there's only one way to find out for myself, so let's have a bite. Appearance is not tasty looking to me. Like, it's just a leaf off a tree, it looks like. It's veiny, it's very green. In my experience with really green foods, usually isn't good. It's got these ruffles on the end of the leaf. Kind of aesthetically interesting. Visually, it changes depending on which side you're looking at it. This side has a bit of a lighter green matte look, and this other side has this shiny dark green look. Not appealing looking. It does look nice and thin at least, so it should be easy enough to chew through. Smell-wise, it doesn't really smell like anything actually, which is I'm happy to take. That's better than a bad smell. If anything, it has like the slightest rubber smell, which is weird. At least that's as is. I'm gonna try and break a piece off and see if it opens up some quick potent smell from it. Okay, yeah. When you actually break it apart, it smells bitter. Leafy and bitter, kind of like broccoli, actually. Well, this is going to taste real good. Great. Texture-wise, yeah, it's interesting. It actually kind of feels a little bit rubbery. And yeah, the backside here feels different than the front does, which is a bit smoother. The backside feels a bit more, I don't know, rubbery, kind of matte. You can feel the veins running through it, which is gross. Ew, don't like that. And these ruffly parts at the end here actually feel like little florets at the end of broccoli. Not exactly an appetizing texture. Taste-wise, I'm going to do this in two parts here, actually. First, I'm going to have this raw, just like a piece like this. But then I actually have a little bit of Caesar salad dressing on the side here. Because I know I'm already going to get comments, people saying, nobody just eats kale like this. You don't just go rah, rah, rah. You got to eat it with something. But either way, I always like to have a good sense of what food tastes like as is, to have a good baseline. And I should mention as well for the texture is that it's probably going to be kind of stringy, which is not exciting. Let's go for the first bite of just the plain raw kale. I don't know if I want the ruffly part in here, or just maybe some more of the leafy kind of part. There's no good answer to that, actually. This looks bad across the board here. I don't know, I guess if I'm doing it, I'm doing it, I suppose. So, bite one, kale. Here we go. Yeah. Oh my goodness, that's bitter. Oh, what a joyless flavor. Well, I can see why people put dressing on that, because that wasn't very good. Very planty tasting. When I use plant as a descriptor, this is what I'm talking about. This is planty. It is gross and very bitter, but admittedly not as bad as I anticipated. I'd heard a lot of horror stories about how bitter kale can be. And this was pretty bitter still, but I thought this was going to be I had to spit it out disgusting. And it was tolerable. It was quite tolerable, I have to admit. Mouthfeel, I have to admit, honestly. It wasn't really that good, but it wasn't as stringy as I anticipated. It was like chewing on paper to some degree, I have to say. I find that happens with lettucey, leafy greens like this. They have a certain paperish quality when you're chewing on them. But compared to some of the other types of greens like this I've had, honestly, it's thinner. And that's not to say that it chews easily. The thing about leafy foods in general is that you really do have to chew on them. So while the papery, thin leaf parts are fairly easy, you're dealing with these veiny sections that come through it, and they really fight back. They're very resistant. When you're chewing on this, you get the sense that this doesn't want to be eaten. Let's go for a second bite just raw of this kale here, and I'll get some of the stem as well this time, which is bound to suck. All right, bite two, raw kale. Here we go. Oh, goodness. Okay, this is getting worse before it gets better. Oh no. It's so chewy. You really have to chew on this. I just have to keep chewing. It just keeps going. Oh, it sucks too when you're eating this kind of food is that these leafy greens, they don't just go down. You get little bits stuck all over the place in your mouth. Okay, it is a bit stringy now this time. I got some stringy veininess going on here. Yeah, so resistant. It's like this food is revolting as I'm eating it. It just does not want to be eaten. Again, nice and thin at least, but that doesn't really matter much when you have to just keep on chewing it over and over and over again, because eventually those thin parts just coalesce into a large chewy mass that you kind of have to work at. Mouthfeel, it's just not that good. Flavor-wise, yeah, that's actually pretty bitter. I know I keep using the word bitter, but maybe I undersold the fact that this is really, really bitter, because that second bite really sucked. It was a little more juicier this time too. I felt like due to the stem maybe that more flavor kind of came out, and it was just not good. That was gross. As far as eating this raw goes, there is nothing enjoyable about it. It's pretty gross, and I'm just taking little bites here, tiny little just nibbles. I feel like if I was just to actually take a big old, just rip some, chew this whole thing up, I wouldn't stand much of a chance, honestly. It would be too much. This thing needs a friend. It needs a sidekick. And in this case, we have a bit of Caesar salad dressing that I'm going to put on top of this. And hopefully that gives this thing a fighting chance. I should note as well that I do kind of like Caesar salad dressing. It really depends on the dressing. Some of them are way too strong. Some of them are too much like a vinaigrette, which makes them all wet and yucky. But this one I'm using today, it's okay. It's not like the best in the world, but it'll probably do the trick, and it was cheap. Okay, final bite for all the marbles. Let's give this a shot. Ooh, that's tough. That's resistant. Noticeably better. Not good. The kale still tastes pretty yucky. Still a lot of bitterness going on there. The tanginess of the Caesar kind of offsets that and really helps with that flavor. Doesn't help with that texture. I'm still getting a lot of these just little pieces getting stuck in my mouth. So honestly, I will admit, with the Caesar, that wasn't nearly as bad. Still not that good. Versus like, say, romaine lettuce, which I've had before, and this kale, I would take the romaine all day. It's not nearly as bitter as this. But honestly, and by comparison, one thing I do like about the kale is that it's not as wet as the romaine lettuce that I've had before. It's not just a host for water, which I find some leafy foods can be. It's just off-flavored water, whereas this at least does have a bit of its own flavor. The problem is that this thing's flavor sucks. But yeah, kale. Overall thoughts. Appearance-wise, I don't want to say gross, maybe that's too strong, but it's unappealing. It looks like I just walked outside and ripped this off a tree, which isn't the kind of thing that gets me excited to eat food, I'll tell you that. The veininess, the very dark, verdant green quality it has going on, not really into that. So yeah, appearance, not the best. The smell is very planty. You can smell the bitterness. You can smell the very strong, like, veggie smell going on, and that's not a smell that appeals to me. Way too planty for me. Texture-wise, yeah, it's weird. It has this, like, weird rubbery quality. Not very smooth. These ruffles feel like little florets, which I don't like. You can feel all the veins running through it. It's gross. And yeah, between the thickness of the stem here and the veins and the actual leafy texture, there's a lot of textures interacting here, which, as somebody who doesn't like multiple textures interacting usually, it's unappetizing before I've even taken a bite. And the taste itself, yeah, it lives up to everything I've heard. It wasn't good. It was very bitter and very planty and just not enjoyable. Not a flavor that at all speaks to me. I will admit that it interacted well with the dressing, and it certainly gave this a fighting chance, but it still doesn't mean this was very tasty. And the thing is too, is I was taking very small portions of this. I would be concerned if I was to actually sit down and have to eat a bunch of this, because I feel like I wouldn't stand much of a chance. I could get through a little bit of it, but that bitterness would add up very, very quickly. And the mouthfeel, yeah, it's funny because it's really thin, and in theory it should be really easy just to chew and get rid of, make it go away. But unfortunately, due to the stringiness and the chewy quality that leaves have, you really just end up actually chewing on this for a long time. And each bite, a little bit more of that bitterness seeps out, a little bit more of the juiciness of the plant seeps out, and what should be something that goes down nice and smooth and easy, instead kind of gets stuck in your mouth and just you're fighting on it for quite some time, which gives you plenty of time to sit around and think about how much you don't enjoy eating it. The dressing helped there a little bit too. It did make it go down a little easier. It made it get stuck in my teeth a little less, but it wasn't enough to make it an enjoyable mouthfeel by any stretch. It just wasn't that good. So yeah, kale. You are what they say you are. And that's bitter and not that good. Would I eat this again? It's funny, actually. After this video, I feel like the answer here should be a clear no. But honestly, with the dressing, it wasn't the end of the world. Like, if I had to eat a little bit of this, I think I could. Like, just like a tiny little bit. Not a lot, though. I think I would get sick of this really, really quickly. But if you made me eat, like, one leaf of this, I guess I could do it. With the right dressing, with the right sides. Well, let's just say I wouldn't be seeking it out. But anyways, this is youARFIDwhatyoueat. Thank you so much for joining me today. I hope you enjoyed the video. We have new videos every Tuesday and Thursday, so if you enjoyed what you saw, stick around, subscribe, and do all that fun social media stuff that people do. Hopefully we'll catch you back for the next episode. And until then, thank you so much. I appreciate your time, and I hope you have a lovely day. So yeah, take care. Bye-bye.